My name's Wayne Bradshaw and I'm the Sales and Managing Director for Jefo Australia. Today we're going to have a chat about feed optimization and nutrition. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Livestock Community Podcast. So what is feed optimization and why is it important to livestock production? Feed optimization involves formulating and managing the animals' diets. It's as simple as that. So you can maximize the growth and performance of your animals and their productivity within your herd or your flock. Feed optimization is crucial. Feed is one of the biggest input costs that you have as a farmer, as a professional in the livestock industry. And if you don't get this right, it costs you and costs your company a lot of extra money and profits. That money could be wasted all the way through. So can you explain the main components of a balanced diet? And I think you as farmers or you as professionals know this better than anyone, but you have your carbohydrates, you have your normal proteins, you have your vitamins, your minerals, and let's not forget water as being a key part of your livestock production. Start looking at your minerals, your vitamins, and your amino acids of how that can be balanced efficiently within your diet and the different phases of production that can then assist your farm and your livestock growth. Let's also not forget the importance of optimizing this is for the growth, but also for the health of your animals. If you under-provide the nutrients required for the older animal or the reproduction process of your cows or your hens or your swine, it means they're not going to perform, and that's going to cause you extra problems down the track with health costs and at times at an extreme level, mortality. How does nutritional requirements of livestock vary at the different lifestyles and production goals? Again, I think that's a very simple one because you're doing this on a day-to-day basis, but we all know that the younger animal needs some more assistance to grow because their digestive system is not quite right to help them digest the food in that early phases. Then as the animal grow, they need more assistance with immunity and better health for growth. And then as they start getting older, the decision is made, are they going to be a reproduction? Are they going to stay in the herd or are they being sold? And if they're being sold, that's targeting meat growth and performance, feed efficiency, feed intake. And if we're looking at reproduction, we're improving that overall digestive to help the fertility of your animals. How important is feed quality and what factors influence it? Now, I'm afraid feed quality is instrumental in the performance of any herd, any flock that's coming through. All your ingredients should be measured when they're put in so you know exactly what the animal is receiving. If you don't do that, you're taking a guess. You're pulling out of thin air what you think could be the area. And of course, we can't measure every feed every day, but it's to get a better idea of what's happening. And more efficiently in South America and in Australia, where you have a lot of pasture fed coming through, it's also important to measure your pastures to make sure your animal is receiving what you think they should be. So we can balance a normal diet, we can balance nutrition coming through for the grains, for the extra components that we're adding to their diet. But if we don't know exactly what the grass is doing at that time, what is the dry matter intake, what is the water content, and what is the nutrient levels of that grass or pasture that you're feeding, the silage that's coming in, then we may be doing disservice to our animals' growth without really realizing it. How do you determine the nutritional needs of different livestock species? Now, there's been a lot of work done throughout the world on what animals require and when they require it. There's been research, there's been national research councils. Australia has some guidelines, America has guidelines, Canada has guidelines, Europeans, South America's everywhere has guidelines for their own area. But it's also important to talk to your genetic suppliers because they all have guidelines of where it fits, and your animals quickly tell you if you're not providing what they need at that time. So work with them and talk to your suppliers, talk to your feed nutritionists, talk to the people, and if you have questions, then start going a little bit further to extension officers or anyone like that. And even us as a company can assist you in some of the guidelines that you should start looking at of where we apply the diets. How do you evaluate the cost effectiveness of different feed additives? And this is really important. Just use Jefo. Okay, I just threw that one in, right? Just fine. I just throw that one in there at the end. The effectiveness of feed ingredients has been done over many, many years of where different feeds should be put and which additives should be placed and where. Start looking at what you look at, and look at the research that's provided from the companies that are providing it to you, from your own nutrition advisors, even from the health professionals that are helping your farm and the industry, to know what you need to add, when you need to add it, and in what source it should be added. Simple things like, can you add vitamins in water, or would it be better to put it in feed? What are you giving your animals, and where we are, so we get the best from the performance and from your money, because all these feed additives cost you dollars to put into your animal's feed. This is something that you get a lot, and sometimes people don't relate it. But how does water quality affect the efficiency of your feed? And this is huge. Very simply, if the water quality, and even something that people don't consider a lot, the water temperature is not right, or the pH level of the water is too harsh, or the alkalinity, you start looking at, you're negatively affecting feed intake. And all of us know that once you start looking at your animals' intakes, water can dictate their growth. Water can dictate how well their feed efficiency and feed intake can come along. So if that's not working, then you know that you have to start working that. It's very simple also. Start measuring your water lines, cleaning your water lines, making sure that you measure the temperature of the water. All these little things are really important to make sure that you're getting the best from the money that you're putting into your diets. So how do you assess the nutrient content of feed ingredients? And this is done, and if you haven't got the ability to do this yourselves, talk to your nutritionist, talk to your feed mill, talk to the people that are there selling you the products, because the infrared spectrometry is available, the NRIS, you can easily go through, and it'll give you very clear guidelines in what you are providing and how you go through and measure it. And then you have things like, tannin levels and phytates and trypsin inhibitors and all these things that you need to be aware of to make sure that you have the correct levels that are going into the feed. Can you explain the significance of feed conversion ratio and how it's measured? This one's very simple, ladies and gentlemen, as you start looking at the FCR, or you can look at feed efficiency, FE, or you can look at feed intake and the growth of your animals. But it's very simple. If you start comparing the growth of your animals and the amount of feed that you're putting into your animals, and you can calculate that on a per kilogram basis inside your livestock. You can classify it as a per square meter basis of how much meat is coming out in comparison to the amount of feed going in. You do that for whatever you think is right for your business, but considering FCR is hugely important to make sure that you're not wasting money. And we all know that money is so hard to get at the moment. How does climate and environmental conditions affect feed nutrition strategies? Again, this is huge. In Australia, for one, we have a higher temperature that goes through. That means that if you start looking at where heat stress can come through, that reduces the amount of feed that the animal can take, and therefore stops their growth. So if you start looking at those environmental impacts go through, start considering that at different times of the year, because all of a sudden you may have to add something else to your diet to help alleviate these effects of certain times and periods. And of course, heat stress, but they can also be affected by the cold. They can be affected by rain and water and extended periods of time that stresses, and any sort of stress for your animals, be it a welfare side of things where animals are being upset and moved, or just heat stress or water stress or anything that's coming through. Anything that stops your animals from being relaxed can affect the feed efficiency. What advances in feed technology are being adopted? And there's a lot of technologies are coming, and more are coming every day. Be it the type of ingredients that you're adding, making sure they're releasing where and when the animal needs it. Can you offer a solution rather than an individual ingredient and start giving a better idea? Are you getting precision nutrition or optimizing that precision start? So therefore you're only feeding the amount you require, rather than putting in too much of vitamins or too much of other grains or energies that may not be required at certain times of production. And again, all I can suggest is you talk very closely with your nutrition providers, your feed mills, or whoever you rely on to assist you in those key decisions within your industry. And if you don't have a nutritionist that you're working with, I could suggest talk to us, talk to someone who has people on hand that can at least give you a pathway to consider. But it is really important to make sure you're making educated decisions on any of these stresses or requirements of your animals before you start moving through and making decisions to change your feed without that educated area. Can you explain the role of feed additives and supplements within livestock diets? I relate this very simply to ourselves. Human nutrition, where there are times that we take a multivitamin, that we take something extra to help us during certain periods. It's the same with your livestock. Feed additives like vitamins, enzymes, organic acids and essential oils, any of these areas have a role to assist your animal in growth for straight gut health, GIT, the gastrointestinal tract, and all the way through to also reduce challenges that the animal may be facing, like a pH-sensitive bacteria, E. coli, Salmonella, Clostridium, any of these ones that come through. Your feed additives should enhance the animal's ability to resist the effects of these sorts of things or negative effects that come through and cause the animals to stop eating or stop growing in that area. And that's where you need to make that decision. And again, I emphasize, if you are not up to date with some of the latest information, talk to our team, talk to your nutritional providers, talk to the people who can give you the extra facts to allow you to make the right decisions of what's required for your livestock. The one area that we haven't touched on yet is the importance of making sure that the mixing process or the feed preparation is correct for your animals. Whether you're mixing it at home or you're buying in a finished feed, you have to make sure that the ingredients are mixed correctly throughout the entire part of the feed. Some feed ingredients now have very low inclusion rates, 100, 200, 300 grams per metric ton of feed. You have to make sure that's mixed correctly throughout. Some products are 3 grams per head per day. We have to make sure that that is efficiently, evenly spread throughout your system, and maybe at times just doing a test within your own system to say, are we getting a good spread throughout the system? And there are traces that you can get to assist you to do that. You measure where the color of a certain tracer is within your feed. Also, should we pellet? Well, it's certainly an area that if you're in intensive livestock production, pelleting feed can also open up and enhance the digestibility of certain grains and ingredients that you're placing in there. Also, pelleting can reduce the effects of in-feed contaminants, so therefore salmonella in feed or any of these things. If you heat to a certain level, you can certainly reduce that effect of those contaminants in the feed. And then, of course, when you start looking at even something like extrusion, that can go through and enhance that certain release. But the one thing to remember, if you overdo the heating process, or overdo extrusion or any of those areas, it can actually have a negative effect on your animals and even cause things like gut ulcers for your livestock. So just be aware that you can have too much of a good thing, if you like, so just be really careful of where you apply it and what you do during that period of time. What are the benefits and challenges of using alternative feed ingredients? And there are benefits because as normal, traditional feed sources get more expensive, the novel, non-conventional ones become available. People feeding seaweed or versions of that to animals to assist with the sustainability areas, the emissions and that sort of side of things. But the one thing you've got to be really careful is it's not just a feed that you can just throw into everything. So everything that goes in, do your research. Start looking at where you think it should be applied. So instead of just throwing something in because it's a little bit cheaper today, it could cost you money tomorrow. So just be really careful of what you put in, when you put it in, and what level of production you want to try something. If you do it to your older animals, their gut can handle a little bit more of a challenge, so therefore it would go through. But I wouldn't put your novel ones straight away into your baby animals and see if that's going to help them or not. So make an educated decision of where you think you need to make these changes. What role does precision feeding play in optimization of nutrition? I can't emphasize enough the importance of feeding what your animal requires when they require it. The days of just taking a broad, wider approach to all production, I think has gone, and it's costing you and as an industry money if we don't get our areas of targeting what an animal needs and when they need it. So start looking at precision nutrition. Start looking at releasing what you need when you need it. And a lot of companies including our own, are doing a lot of work in this area. And I think it's something that you'll see more and more of in the next little while. But unless you're paying attention to what your animal needs and when you need it, you could be wasting some money inside your diets. And as we said previously, one of your largest intake costs is feed. Feed ingredients, growing can be 60 and 70% of your overall costs. If you can save 2 and 3 and 5%, it means a holiday for you as a farmer. It means relaxing a little bit more because you know your animals are getting what they need. And the other thing is, by not overfeeding, it means that you're also reducing the negative effects inside the animal. So therefore, any enteric diseases and these sort of things that may come in and cause a problem has also been reduced. So again, talk to your nutritional advisors and go through. My name is Wayne Bradshaw, Sales and Managing Director of Jefo Australia, and we look forward to sharing another Livestock Community Podcast with you in the near future.
Thanks for watching this episode of the Livestock Community Podcast, proudly sponsored by Jefo. We hope you enjoyed the discussion and found it valuable. For more information, be sure to visit jefo.com Livestock Community, and don't forget to follow us on YouTube and Instagram to stay updated with the latest episodes and content. We'd love to have our experts answer your questions, so feel free to send them our way through our social media. See you next time, and thank you for being part of the livestock community.